And aside from violins, which is the instrument that most people would always think of, we also make violas, cellos, guitars, mandolins, and then we do occasionally allow people to make double basses. All the items on the wall here, they are templates, and the template is the starting point for making a violin or a cello. And you only see half the body of the instrument because we want the two halves to be absolutely symmetrical. There are two different types of gouges that get used for violin making. The big difference between the way these tools work, the one that's ground on the inside is very good for shaping a piece of wood which is curved in one dimension but perfectly flat and straight in the other. Whereas this type of gouge, which is ground on the outside, when you use this one, when you push it forwards, it rises with the cut and it takes less off. Whereas this one here, when you push it forwards, it continues on in a straight line and takes the same amount off for as long as you're pushing it forwards. So these are the ones that we tend to use for shaping the outside of the body of the violin in the early stages, taking a solid block of wood and converting it more into the shape that most people would recognise. We've got lots and lots of knives. Violin making is unusual in that there is a large dependency on the use of knives for doing much of the shaping of the wood, which in most other forms of general woodwork they wouldn't normally be used. So we had to have lots of these because we have lots of students who all need to use them at the same time. Me personally, I've been making violins for 30 years now. It seemed that the reason I started making violins was the best option I had at the time. But I know that sounds odd, but my mother's a violin maker and she started up the business. So it was an opportunity for me to take an apprenticeship with my mother, which not every boy perhaps would feel comfortable doing, but it worked out very well for me. Cellos is my thing. When the cellos come in to be worked on here, I basically do all of them. It takes an extra special ability to cope with the scale of instruments such as cellos and double basses. I suppose because it's my niche area of operation, that's the one that I would most enjoy. Okay, the varnishing room, it's a separate room because it must be dust-free, or at least as close to dust-free as we can achieve. If you were in a hospital, this would be the operating theatre. It's the place where everything has to be pristine, clean, and well lit. An unvarnished violin is almost like an untamed beast. It's very brash, it's very loud, it can have quite extremes, and especially it can sound really quite not as smooth as one might normally expect a violin played by a really good player to sound. So the varnishing, if you like, is a filtering process of the sound, whereby the addition of varnish onto the surface of the wood just helps to temper the sound and make it more even and balanced across all the notes that it might have to play. Normally, if I'm making just a standard model of violin, one that I've made previously, I would expect it to take me about 80 hours to make the violin ready to be varnished. And the varnishing process and the rest of the processes one goes through to finish the instrument would be maybe about another 20 hours. So around about 100 hours in total to make one instrument.